Hey guys, welcome to part 3 of the buffet build. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2, go back on my channel and watch those here. We're going to be finishing up in part 3 here. I'm going to start by cutting the solid maple for the top to rough dimensions. I'm starting with 5/4 maple, and what I need to do is straighten, flatten, and plane them down to the thickness that I need. Alright guys, well as we're moving on to part 3 here, building the top, you can see that I have the workpiece down on the side over there that's covered up with a painter's top, that's so it doesn't get any dust and damage. Right now what I want to do is make this solid maple top. I need it to be altogether a total of 22¼ inches. What that's going to do is give me a flush back on the back of the workpiece and bring that 1¼ inch overhang in the front, and I need it to be 60 inches wide, and that's going to be from side to side with 1 inch overhang on the sides. Okay, so now what I have to do is, you see here what I did was I marked in some checking on the end of this, so I'm going to cut that piece off, and then from here I measured out 64 inches on each of the pieces. I marked where there's a knot on this piece here, that's going to be cut out because you don't want to use any knots or anything like that, especially that one goes through to the other side of the board. So I'm going to cut these all up to rough lengths, then we have to mill them on the jointer, we have to mill them through the planer and bring them down to a little bit of maybe about a little more than 1 inch. Okay guys, so the first step in my process, as always, is passing it through the jointer to get one flat face. So I'm going to pass all the boards through here, get a flat face to work with first and reference off of. Once I have that flat face, I'll press that flat face up against the fence and joint one edge. Now it's off to the thickness planer, so that not only can I get it parallel to the flat face, but I can also bring it down to the thickness that I need. To complete the S4S process, I'll just run it through my table saw and cut thin strips off the edge that hasn't been jointed. Now that the boards have been built, I can set them on my workbench and start to put them in the orientation that I want, stack them together, and make a triangle on them so that I know that's exactly how I want them to be during the glue up. But the first thing I need to do is make sure there are no empty seams where the glue would possibly fail. So I'm going to check everything, make sure everything's tight, and if anything needs to be brought back to the jointer, this is the time to do it. Now, one other thing I like to do before I actually do the glue up is just do a dry run. So I'm going to place these boards back in the order that they go, and then I'm going to use my parallel clamps and clamp it up with no glue and see how the seams close when the pressure is added to them. So the process of checking everything is done. I can start adding the glue and adding the pieces to my panel press and do the real glue up. Once the clamps are applied, you're going to get glue squeeze out. The best thing to do at this point is to take a nice wet rag and wipe it all off, and whatever is remaining later on that hardens up a little bit, you can use a paint scraper to clean it off. Okay, so as you can see, I added some more clamps just to fill in the gaps here because I don't have any more of these panel clamps for the glue press. So I'm just substituting with the parallel clamps, which is just fine. So I'm going to let this set up overnight. I cleaned off all the excess glue squeeze out. That's going to save me a ton of time not having to scrape that off. So tomorrow, this will come out of the clamps. We'll flatten everything down, hand plane it, sand it down, and we'll start to oil it up, get ready to cut it to the dimensions that I need. Now my first process in flattening these panels is always to go to the good old hand plane, and I'm using my 17-inch long jointing plane, and what this is going to do is give me a nice true flat surface. I'll start with the seams, get all that excess glue off, and then run all the way across the panel. Once I'm done with the hand plane, I'm going to remove all those tool marks by using my random orbital sander, working my way through the various grits. Now I'll bring it back over to the table saw and I'm going to rip it to my final dimensions here. Okay, so now we're ready for the finish here. This is an oil-based varnish, a wiping varnish, and what I'm going to do is give it 3 coats. Now since this is an oil-based product, it's going to need a full 24 hours to dry after each coat. So once it dries after 24 hours, I'll sand it down, give it a second coat, and then another 24 hours and give it a third coat. After the finish is dried, I'm going to give it a light hand sanding, and then I'll be ready to apply another coat. Now after applying multiple coats of this finish, I'm really impressed with it, and it's building really nicely on the maple. Okay guys, so I have 3 coats of the Armor Seal on here, the oil-based varnish, and it's feeling really good. It's nice and smooth. I could hit this with a 2000 grit sandpaper right now, and that would knock off any little imperfections and make it glass smooth, but I want to bring up the sheen just a little bit on this. It has a dull sheen, like a matte finish. I want to bring it up and give it a little bit of a polish. I have my random orbital sander, and I have a Scotch-Brite pad on here. This is the extra fine one. This is just a polishing pad. There's really no abrasiveness on this. So I have that right on the sander with no abrasive backing on it at all, just a hook and loop. And what I'm going to do is just gently go back and forth and bring up just a little sheen without burning through the finish. You got to be really careful when you do this. Alright, perfect. Brought the sheen up just a little bit. It's glass smooth. There is nothing on the finish whatsoever. Can't feel any rigidness, any bumps or anything like that. Alright, so let's get this out of the way, get the bottom piece back up, and gently rest this on the top. Okay, so you can see here I have the carcass assembly back up on the work table. What I need to do now is I have these supports here on the top, these top stretchers. What I need to do is drill holes in here on an offset and elongate those holes so that when the solid top is on, if there's any movement side to side, those screws will be able to move with the wood and not bind anything up or split the wood. So once I have those holes in there, when I bring to the customer's house in 2 pieces, I'll attach the top at their house by using the special bit that came with those attaching screws that I'm going to use, and then just putting that impact driver, which fits perfectly right in here, to screw the top down to that supporting stretcher. So I figured if I drill the holes now, I could save time at the client's house. Okay guys, so here is the solid maple top. You can see the nice sheen on that. This is just a quick little bird's eye view before I install it on the top. I'm just going to lay it on the top for now. I just wanted you to see. Now, the lighting in here is very bright, so you might not be able to catch the contrast of it, but it has that nice yellowy butcher block style top, that yellowy oil finish, and it's going to look good in their kitchen, matching the rest of their countertops. Okay guys, well, here's a completed project, all assembled here. I have the top just sitting on there. That's the solid maple top. That's going to be installed at the client's house. It's just, for weight purposes, it's going to be much more difficult to carry with this sitting on top there because it's very heavy. The unit by itself alone, without that, is heavy. Even to take the drawers out helps a lot. So we have 2 full extension drawers. Those are solid wood. The finishing process, I did 3 coats of lacquer I couldn't get pre-catalyzed lacquer because here in New York you need a special license for that because the EPA gets involved. You have to have the right kind of ventilation and everything. I don't have that, and I don't have the license for it. So what I did was I got brushing lacquer. I cut that down with 50-50 mix of lacquer thinner and sprayed that through the gun. And the reason I wasn't able to film that is because as I started to spray, when I was filming, the camera got covered with the film of lacquer because there was so much of the overspray that I immediately had to stop and clean the camera off so it wouldn't get damaged. So I wasn't able to film that. But after 3 coats of lacquer, problem is with the brushing lacquer, when you do cut it and mix it, what you need to do is wet sand it, which I did with a 2000 grit paper, wet sand, a little soapy water that leaves behind like an orange peel film. You got to clean that off, and then steel wool with finishing paste wax, rub that on, and then buff that off with the same pad that you saw me buff the top with, that polishing pad. So give me a nice finish, but I'm pretty much, after that experience there, it's a lot extra to do for the finishing process. I think I'm just going back to the regular polyurethane, spray that, 3 coats with sanding in between and be done with it. No waxing involved, but it did come out as a nice finish. I really do like it, and I'm sure they're going to like it as well. Very slick, very glass smooth finish. The top's very glass smooth also. So that's it. All that's left to do now is to go and bring it to their house and install the top permanently and be done with it. And I'll upload at the end of this video. You can see some good shots in the different lighting. It's very, very bright in here with these fluorescent lights. Gives off a lot of shadows, a lot of different tones to the wood and the finish. So let's get that over there, install the top, and take some pictures. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this project. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure to like the video. Give it a thumbs up. Click on the picture of a bell so that you get notified every time I upload a video, which is usually on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. And also, I'm going to put a link on the bottom of the screen here. That's my Instagram. Make sure to follow me there. I'll see you guys next time.